you're in the trenches and you're grinding it out those last, 6 weeks of your show or 4 weeks of your show. There's no one there. It's just you, right? So you gotta find that grit, right? Like you have to dig deep and have something and a purpose. And I think it's important to, even for a lifestyle client, you gotta have purpose. You gotta have intention with what you're doing. And I think that helps you stay more on track when you believe in what you're doing. But I think people can get lost in the day-to-day kind of repetitiveness, and just find it too difficult to follow a program, right? So it's constant restarting.
Always do it on my own, so I gotta get through it. And the only thing I know is to love what I'm doing. Never give up, never slow, till I finally prove it. Never listen to the no's.
And welcome back, viewers and listeners, to another episode of the Unbreakable Podcast Network. Today, I'm really delighted we're launching into our second episode of Bodybuilding in Business. And today, I'm joined by Rob William. A lot of our listeners may know Rob. Rob is the founder of Self-Made Nutrition and also the general manager of the Realm Fitness here in Calgary, which is, in my opinion, the best gym in Calgary. How's it going, Rob?
I'm very good, thanks. How are you?
I'm fabulous. It's a Friday. I've got coffee. I get to train at the Realm today, so it's all good.
Yeah. Well, we look forward to seeing you.
Yeah, so here we are. We're in our second episode of Bodybuilding in Business, and the intent of this show is to, well, I mean, I love bodybuilding. Let's be honest; it's a huge part of
We
my life, right? So I'm always looking for folks to come on and talk bodybuilding and talk business and talk about industry and the things that we're seeing. So maybe just give us a little bit of an overview of who you are and some of the things that you do in industry, and just let's help our listeners get to know you a little bit.
Yeah. So originally I started out as a chef. I did that for 15 years professionally, and learned a lot about business, learned a lot about industry, a lot about growing, mentoring, teaching people. And I've always been kind of bodybuilder, into fitness, all of that. As I got competing and kind of more involved in bodybuilding, it started out as coaching, kind of family, friends. From there, it grew. And I started to see success in those kind of little wins and just helping people. And from there, the passion kind of grew away from, being in, the culinary world and the restaurant industry and all of that. And I began to kind of transition into more full-time coaching, full-time bodybuilding, which now leads me to being the general manager of the Realm. A little over a year ago, we started building this place, with nothing but four walls. And here we are, best gym in Calgary, best gym in Canada, maybe aiming to be the best gym in the world. So, self-proclaimed, but yeah, we just try to be better every day. And that's kind of where, I find a lot of my success.
That's fantastic. So when you look back, I mean, the Realm was a true labor of love. Like, I mean, I think it was last October, maybe early November. I was away on a job in France and I saw that they were looking for founding members. And, so I was one of those founding members where I saw it and I signed up for it, but I didn't actually step foot into the gym until like May, I think, because, it was a long process.
It was, yeah, setbacks in any business, right? We initially we went through quite a few locations, trying to nail down something that was going to fit, kind of check all the boxes, that worked for location wise in the city. But we wanted something with character. We didn't want, just a industrial logistics warehouse. That was kind of all brand new and fancy. We wanted something that we could build and kind of like give a unique kind of personality to. So we lucked out and we found this place where we're at now here in Inglewood. It's perfect location, central, kind of downtown Calgary, easy for everybody to get to, tons of parking, and just a huge building overall. So it fit the bill. It was actually bigger than what we wanted for the initial kind of planning. But as we kind of got into it, we were like, okay, this place is going to be huge. Let's fill it now, right? So yeah, we kind of started off a little bit, running where we were like, okay, we're going to be open by Christmas. And then that kind of like, oh, we're gonna be open by New Year's and then we'll be open by March. And one thing led to another. May, we had the final inspections. It turned out to be a lot more work than, what we initially thought, with kind of like the whole core building. We had to do fire suppression, put in HVAC, All that stuff was just a lot of extra stuff that we wouldn't have had to do in a newer building. But we had to bring this one up to more of an updated code and obviously make it safe. But yeah, I think we lucked out. It turned out really well. And I mean, a lot of the guys that you see here day to day are the guys that built it. They were all originally a part of it. From the day we got this building to doing concrete to building the walls and doing the floors, building the equipment. We had certain trades, but most of it was done with Mike, me, Jason, AJ, Aegis. Like there's a couple core guys who, we really put in the construction, and there was a lot of late nights, a lot of early mornings. But we just didn't stop until it was done. We still continued to try to, you'll always see us around the gym building stuff, bringing in new equipment. Yeah, that's a kind of the rundown of what I've been doing for the last year. But now that it's all done, it's exciting for me to get more back into the coaching and more back into my own bodybuilding journey and kind of focus on growing the coaching side of things and get more involved with the athletes too.
And I think that's you're kind of touching on community, right? One of the things that I love about bodybuilding is our community. And it's like, I think I said this on the Think Big podcast that I published with Scott McNally a couple weeks ago, is that, the community and camaraderie of who we are as a group of people. Like, I think I said it out loud, was like, who wouldn't want to be part of bodybuilding, right? I mean, we're a bunch of strong, good looking people running around, and certainly not without the clicks. And then, of course, you have the people who come in who just kind of want to dip their toe in the water. And a lot of people get offended by that. And so what I've noticed about the realm is that it's a very inclusive community. There's a lot of different folks who come there. Talk a little bit about, like, kind of springboarding off of that group of people that helped build it to what it's becoming now, right? I mean, like, you see, soccer moms and soccer dads in there, and then you see people who are really hardcore. We have a lot of pros there. You have, mid-level bodybuilders like myself who get in, we compete, but we have no desire to go. And then you kind of have the people who are maybe not destined for the sport, but that are participating.
Yeah. Yeah, we have everybody. It first started out as like, hey, this is a bodybuilding gym. Everybody, this is just for bodybuilders, because we're all bodybuilders that opened it. When really that's not the case. We tried to be inclusive and have something for everybody in terms of equipment and just design of the facility, where it's not just a place for 200-pound gym rats. We do have a lot of that culture, and we from competitive pro level, we have I think 20 IFBB pros now who train here. We have Olympic athletes. Actually, Davidson, one of our Olympic athletes, just won gold down in Utah, I believe it was, on the Canadian bobsled.
Fantastic.
Brazilian bobsled, my
Amazing.
correction. And yeah, so I mean, he broke his back a year ago, and now he's back training, winning golds. So just community's huge. We have people that will, first time in the gym, people that just walked in off the street because they live close and wanted to hear and see what it was all about. And now there are members. We have personal trainers here that kind of focus in all different levels and experiences. Different disciplines like MMA, competitive bodybuilding, rehab, and injury kind of recovery. So there really is something for everyone. And, the amenities here, massage, chiro, soon to becoming the spa. It's going to tap into like a whole other group of people that, might just want to come for the spa alone, or just adding the value added for the members here that just want that other aspect of, doing it all in one place.
That's powerful. It's like you guys are becoming something to everyone. And so how do you, as a leadership team at the realm, maintain the core of who you are and the vibe of serving those initial members, right? Like, so initially, yeah, you guys were like, we see a gap. Bodybuilders have to assimilate into other gyms. How do you make sure that that core group of people that you're originally trying to serve don't get lost in the the way that you are trying to make it more inclusive and, let's be honest, more profitable, right? I mean, it's a business, right?
Yeah, I mean, we are a business. We want to have as many members as we can fit, but we also don't want to lose touch with kind of how we started, and the people, obviously the founding members and the people that supported us without even seeing the place, without even knowing what it was. They're just like, here, take my money. we really appreciate that core group of people that were there for us, even though the delays happen and all these things, right? I mean, they get an awesome rate to discounted memberships and stuff like that, but also like we connect with people. It's not just like the gym where you go in, you never see the owners, you never see the GM. Like everybody's kind of working behind the scenes or busy. We take time to talk to people, to interact with people, and it's more than just a gym. It's a place where you can come and connect and network with people, whether it's business or fitness or just outside activities. We got lots of members that are like making friends and just like hanging out outside the gym. So it's breaking down kind of the barriers of communication where, hey, maybe the soccer mom and the soccer dads might be intimidated by the big pro bodybuilders in the gym, and maybe at these other big box gyms they would never cross paths, they would never talk, they'd see each other every day and it's a nod and on your way. Here we encourage those people to like cross paths, to interact, to get to know each other, because we can all learn something from each other, in a way, right? And I've done a lot of tours and a lot of kind of walkarounds with people who are like, oh, I'm intimidated being here, and everybody here looks so good and everybody's in shape. And I said, well, yeah, and then there's this person over here who said the same thing yesterday. Now they're here. Now they're training. Now they have 3 friends over there they're chatting with, having a good time. And maybe they're people that you would never communicate with or kind of cross paths with outside of this place. But here, we can all connect through fitness. We all kind of like leave everything else at the door. We just focus on, bettering ourselves and just, showing up as a community. And I think that kind of like empowers members to contribute like positively to the place. It's not just a space where you come and punch in, punch out. It's like you stay, you kind of hang out, you contribute. A lot of members are always asking like, hey, can I help out? Can I volunteer? Can I build some machines? You guys need help cleaning? All this kind of stuff. It's like, that never happens, right? Like, why do people want to like, volunteer their time? But they just want to be part of it. They want to, it's kind of like our community. It's not just like, oh, this is the gym and, come and go as you please, but people want to stay. They want to hang out.
Yeah, and I mean, it totally helps that you guys have those big comfy couches and those big cozy blankets. I mean,
Yeah.
but that's the thing, right? Is that you make a couple of really great points just in terms of demystifying. And I mean, I think that's one of the reasons why, when Josie and I were programming for the Unbreakable podcast, it's like, let's start to engage with the bodybuilding community in a more holistic way, because I think that there's a lot of misconceptions around who we are as individuals, that we're unapproachable, or that, everybody's got roid rage, or, take whatever stereotype you want and apply it. So if you were to think about like how you demystify, or you share information that, hey, you know what, I'm just a guy at a gym doing some really great community building stuff. Like, what are the things that you think are the barriers for people to engage with our community?
Um, I mean, it's hard to say I'm on one side of it, right? So,
Yeah, that's
I,
fair.
I would say like a little bit of an intimidation factor. Like, you do say like some of us may look unapproachable. A lot of us are big and tattooed and kind of scary looking to what the general normal kind of population looks like. But I think a lot of people, like when they get kind of through that, and they sit down, have a conversation with you, that they realize that we're all just normal people too. We all have big hearts, and um, I mean, there's always exceptions to the rule. You're going to find people that are kind of angry or have roid rage or whatever. Maybe they're in a contest prep or something and they just kind of don't want to chat. You're always going to catch someone on a bad day, but for the most part, like we just want to be included. We want to be part of a community. A lot of the bodybuilders turn to the sport because we're kind of like misfits. We don't really fit in anywhere, and we fit outside the rules of normal kind of life and lifestyles, right? We like to do things disciplined, and we like to have goals, and that's kind of scary for some people. Is that they don't want to answer the hard questions, they don't want to
Mhm.
challenge themselves, and a lot of people just settle for where they're at, and they don't look at ways to improve. And I think with bodybuilding, um, the ones who have been in it for a while, they can apply those same kind of principles from bodybuilding to other aspects of their life, right? Whereas I'm not growing in this area. How do I invest more into it?
I think that's a great point, right? I often tell people that bodybuilding saved my life, right? Like, I was walking down a path, I was incredibly obese, I lost a bunch of weight, and then it was like, well, now what? How do I make sure that, I've got something to look forward to in my life? And I think that, it's desirable, but this kind of, it kind of leads into a couple of listener questions that we had that I thought might be great conversation for us. And, when we think about where we are in the year, and we think about people setting goals, your profession as a coach, and then your experience in the gym and working with people as a bodybuilder, when you think of somebody who comes to you and says, I fall off the wagon all the time. Right? Like you get these people who I have people who restart several times a year. And there's obviously more to it than just their desire or capability to continue. But how does someone, this is a listener question, how do I rebuild momentum when I've already fallen off the wagon?
It's a good one.
It is.
And yeah, and I get this all the time. And I mean, there's levels to it. When you're, it's a lot different, it looks a lot different than someone who's maybe just a fitness or lifestyle client. Hey, I'm having trouble doing this, and these are kind of my struggles, where they're like, maybe it's scheduling, or maybe it's just lifestyle, or, life comes at you and things happen, right? Whereas if you're a competitive bodybuilder, that doesn't really apply. It's like, hey, you got to get it done, and you got to be self motivated. You can't be looking to other outside influences for motivation and trying to draw on off that, because at the end of the day, when you're in the trenches and you're grinding it out those last 6 weeks of your show or 4 weeks of your show, there's no one there. It's just you, right? So you gotta find that grit, right? Like you have to dig deep and have something and a purpose. And I think it's important to, even for a lifestyle client, you gotta have purpose. You gotta have intention with what you're doing. And I think that helps you stay more on track when you believe in what you're doing.
Mhm.
But I think people can get lost in the day-to-day kind of repetitiveness, and just find it too difficult to follow a program, right? So it's constant restarting. I mean, I've fallen off the wagon numerous times. I've ever since I built this gym, I've been trying to get back on track. But business, sometimes it's not always balanced, right? You got to pour a little bit more into one cup, right? And that's okay. But I think the biggest thing is just not giving up. Um, I think the resilience of, coming back to something over and over, even if you fail, even if you don't get the desired result right away, it's the path that you're on is bringing you success, right? Whether it's a small win here or it's a big goal, a 5-year plan. The little wins along the way are important to recognize. Um, and I think just like, it's not really a momentum thing. I think it's just like, hey, I really messed up today. I fucking missed all my meals. I didn't do cardio. I'm not even going to bother training. But it's like, okay, what am I going to do today to fix for that for tomorrow? What
Exactly.
can I do to restart? Today was a bad day. Okay, sure. Give it, have some grace. Give yourself the opportunity to mess up and acknowledge it, and be like, okay, tomorrow, this is my plan. This is what I'm going to do because I messed up this way today. And you learn from it. I think that's the biggest thing, is just kind of not giving up. If you're falling off constantly, figure it out. Like, break it into smaller, bite-sized chunks where you can say, okay, this is where I'm having trouble staying on track,
Yeah.
and this is what I need to do to get there, and how do I kind of like meet in the middle, right?
Mhm. So then kind of leading off of that, let's take it down the path and really speak to those competitive athletes. And, as a competitive athlete yourself, as well as myself, um, talk a little bit about the post competition space, because I think that when we think about, everybody wants to win. Nobody gets up in the morning and says, I'm going to compete so that I can come in eighth. Like nobody, right? Um, and your mom is going to tell you how great you are, how good you look. Your friends at the gym are going to be like, you're just diced, and they'll use like, oh, you're diesel. Like they throw all these words at you, and it's this but at the end of the day, you don't know who's showing up, right? I mean, I went through that this season. I got really nice and lean. I was looking good. I knew I wasn't as good or as sharp as I could be, particularly in my posterior. That's an area for me that I just need to get really, really gnarly with. Um, but everybody was telling me how good I was, and you're going to win, you're going to do this, and it's like, okay, well, even people who were in the industry were saying this to me, and I was like, I just kept my head about me, and I said, you don't know who is going to show up, right? You don't know where their thresholds of what they're willing to participate or do are, particularly as females. And so you go in, you do it, you feel really great about it. I got my pictures back from one of my competitions, and I was like, those are fucking terrible. I'm not sharing them with anyone.
Yeah.
I looked I mean, I've spent from 2018 till now working really, really hard, pushing myself to these crazy limits off season where I'm, like, pushing food so hard that I'm getting up to 200 pounds. And then I have to lose 50 in a contest prep just to try and gain that muscle. And, I looked at my pictures and I was like, "Man, I just" and this was immediately post-contest. I looked at them and I went, "Oh, I just look like a little bag of antlers." Like, I just don't feel like I achieved what I set out to do. And so, yeah, I look back and I do all these things. But in that most like raw post competition space, how do you as a coach handhold or kind of work with your athletes or even people around the gym who I mean, we don't see ourselves the way other people see us. We're not realistic in that space. So you're bringing your absolute best and you didn't achieve what you set out to do, which is win because that's what everybody wants to do. Um, we're seeing a phenomenon where people are firing coaches when they're not winning. Like that's it. Oh, that you brought me in the best I've ever looked, but I didn't take first place. I didn't place in the top 3, so sorry, bud, you gotta go. Like, when you look at that, talk a little bit about the emotion and what you do to help make sure that your athletes don't become basket cases coming out of a prep. And then from there, how do you mitigate any risk to you as a business owner where somebody didn't do as well, but it's not really within your control?
Yeah, I mean, I think the first thing is just having realistic expectations from the start. Like you said, everyone's going to gas you up around you, friends, family. They're all going to tell you, "Oh, you're going to the Olympia." Um, I think it's important to quiet that noise and not seek it. I think some people are worse for it than others. Seeking the kind of validation or like, "Hey, I'm in prep. Look at me every day." That kind of thing. I think it's important to have the self reflection to be like, you don't know who's going to show up. And even if you do kind of know who's showing up, "Oh, I got them all beat." Sure, but maybe you won't. Maybe you'll miss your peak, right? I always tell each athlete, it's like, "Hey, you know what? We're going to bring our absolute best that we can. Um, and of course, winning is our goal. It's always our goal. But it's realistic expectations. If this person, needs more work, you need to be honest with that person, right? If they need another off season, then that's something that you learn, right? Like as soon as you get off that stage, it's all clear. And then when the pictures come in, the athlete can reflect on that and be like, "Okay, was I better? Was I better than my last show? Did we improve? Was the off season, was gaining that to going up to 200 pounds and losing 50? Did that serve you? Right? Would it have been better? Would it have been better to stay leaner, right? And then not have to suffer as much, right? To get into shape, right? Would your legs have been sharper, right? So there's all things that you can look at, right? And I mean, it's important to go through all of that, like use your judging feedback with the athlete to say, "Hey, you know what? We missed the mark. It could have been on the athlete, it could have been on the coach. But it's important to own that when you see something that's like, "Hey, you know what? Maybe we should have fed you more. Um, you know, a couple days ago, you looked much better than you did on stage. Maybe we should have changed the way that we peaked or kind of, been a little bit more prepared, right? Things can go sideways on either side, but it's important to like recognize that. Is this a coaching problem? Is it a peaking problem? Um, or is it just not your year? Sometimes people just show up and they're better, and that's okay too. But it's important to look at kind of what did you win? Did you improve your best self? Did you show up, the best that you could be? And then take that into the off season, right? Like not every season's going to be a win. And in bodybuilding, we got to be better at losing than we are at winning because,
Oof,
you know, it's
yes.
all about failing, right? You're training till failure, you're competing, you're losing. There's a lot more losers than winners. If you look at pro shows, you have the highest level of bodybuilding. If you're going to, lose a regional show or a national show and fire your coach because you didn't win and blame it all on them, I mean, that's kind of a you problem. That's something you need to like reflect on in yourself to say like, "Hey, you know what? When it's your time, it's your time, whether it's a pro card or winning a regional or an overall show. And it should be undeniable. It shouldn't be like, "Oh, if I was a little bit if I was a little bit sharper, I would have won." No, it should just be like you were the best that day and, you stood on stage and you won the show. Um, but I think people are quick to fire a coach or look at their coach and try to find problems with that to kind of point blame or whatever it may be. But I think it's important to not be the coach that's like, you're going to win this show.
Oh
You know,
God.
we're going to go
Yeah.
to nationals and you're going to get a pro card, because then that reflects poorly on you later. It's kind of like, hey, set realistic expectations. Our goal is this. Like the big goal is like, hey, we go to nationals, we win a pro card. You know, but everyone thinks their first show, you know, they're going to win their first show, get an
It's
overall, they're
crazy.
going to go to nationals, they're going to get a pro card. You know, and unless you're like one of the very, very, very small percentages of athletes that are talented, or you've been bodybuilding for 20 years and just kind of haven't got on stage, you know, it's a very small group of people that have that success right out of the gate. So it's always learning, it's always growing. And I think it's just the negative self-talk that we get lost in, is like, it's easy to be like, oh, I need to be better, right? And I think it's just like over time that will happen, right? It's just a matter of how much do you want to invest and what are you going to get out of it?
Well, and it comes back to something I say all the time is how you do one thing is how you do everything. And your actions express your priorities. And you made a point earlier, actually, where you said, you know, I'm not doing the bodybuilding the same way I was because business became the priority. Well, yeah, paying the bills is pretty important. I mean, I tell people that all the time. You know, I travel so much for my work, and you know, people chirp me about it all the time. And it's like, yeah, but I have a really expensive bodybuilding habit that I have to fund. And so
It
being a global executive serves that purpose, right? Um,
does.
you know, and I think that you also hit on a couple of other things in terms of mindset and being realistic. And I don't think that I think that frankly, social media plays a really significant role in the lack of self-awareness that some people have. Right. Because you can always tell, like, I don't know about you, but when I go to a show, I can always tell who watches a lot of YouTube when they get up on stage to pose. Because at a regional show, if you're, like, sweeping off your quads before you do, like, your front double bicep, come on. Like,
Yeah.
like, that's some cheese right there, and it's like, you're at a regional show, and I get it, you're giving the people what they paid for, which is, you know, a bit of a show, but at the same time, it's like you don't have the basics down in terms of your
Yeah.
posing,
You're
and you're
not guest posing.
yeah, well, right? And
Yeah.
so, you know, it's the same as, like, when you see, like, and we've seen it actually at a couple of, John's shows, actually, people who show up and they don't even have a tan. Like, the mockery, I think, of the sport and those kinds of things, like, what do you take around, like, those trolling moments, or what I perceive to be trolling, because I just can't think that somebody in their right mind would show up in, like, the shorts that they mow the grass in on a Saturday afternoon and no tan and, like, a tuft of chest hair. I mean, like, that's wild to me.
I've seen a few like over the years where I don't know if it's like comedy, or I never really read much into it, to be honest. I see these stage shots of guys that, you know, maybe they age with a tan or without a tan. That's kind of like the unfortunate part of like regional shows, and I mean even nationals. You guys get there, they didn't really have to earn their place, whether they were the only one in the show,
Yeah,
um, or they just paid the registration and entered. Right? That's the only kind of pre requirement to competing in a bodybuilding show, is you don't really have to show up in shape, and it's all money. The promoter's not going to say no. Um, but I mean, also within that, there's people that have kind of gone through, whether it's disabilities, you know, some sort of life trauma. There's kind of a mental aspect, like maybe kind of, you know, they're suffering from mental illness, or they're kind of overcoming, you know, something internally. You know, all the power to those people that want to get up and do something that puts them like way outside their comfort zone. I mean, doing it as a mockery with the intention of like, hey, this is funny. I mean, it's a waste of your time. It's a waste of everyone's time. But um, ultimately, it's going to happen, right? But I mean, it's, you know, the cream always rises to the top, right? It's, you know, I wouldn't want that in my stage photos, in my comparisons, but ultimately, like, you pay the fees and you can get on stage. And I mean, if you want to spend your time doing that, that's really I guess there's
it's a choice.
better. Yeah, it's a choice, right? I mean, it doesn't discredit the work of the other athletes. There is people there that are serious, and I mean, in the years I've been competing and coaching, I've seen all levels of competitors, from guys who are 60 years old who do every regional show just because they love it, right? You know,
I know
to
who
the
you're talking
people.
about.
Yeah, I mean,
He's
And
wonderful.
we love it. We love it. Yeah. And, there's always a space for those people, right? It takes a whole lot of people to make this sport what it is. And, from every division, they added Fit Model this year. It's a whole other pool of candidates, a whole other pool of athletes that can now enter the sport. I mean, there's a lot of controversy about it, and there still is. Um, but it's growing our sport. At the end of the day, it's bringing more people in. It's making it a little bit more achievable to some of the people that maybe don't want to push PEDs, maybe just want to do it as like a bucket list thing. You see a lot of people kind of like, hey, I just want to do a bodybuilding show just to say I did it, right? And they're not there to win. They're not there to get a pro card or try to beat anybody. They just want to show up and say that they did it. And for them, that's a huge achievement, right? Um, so yeah, I try not to discredit anybody, or look at a picture and be like, "Oh, that guy's an idiot for doing that." It's you don't know his story, but I'm also not going to be the person posting hate or like drawing attention to it or making a reel about, "Oh, look at this guy at this show." That's not really what I do. I try to build people up always, right? And I mean, even if they need a lot of work or they're nowhere near where they need to be, I think just like putting more attention on it, it just makes it a bigger issue than it needs to be. If that person wants to work hard and kind of take the feedback that they get and apply it, become better, and utilize that, it's up to them. Or maybe they just say, oh, whatever, I'm just going to keep being mediocre,
Yeah.
right?
I'm gonna go learn lacrosse. Well, and I think that's the one thing about the bodybuilding industry is that it can be pretty hot button, right? I mean, you see something come out and it blows up on social media, and people just lose their minds over what I think is some of the stupidest shit. Like, I don't know, man. Like, I have only so many hours in my day, and time is the only thing I can't get back. The last thing I'm gonna be doing is fighting with somebody on the internet.
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
I think,
I don't,
you get
I
lost in a
don't care.
rabbit hole with it.
You do. And, I mean, fitness model is a great example of that is, people are like, well, you're just diluting it further. You're doing this, you're doing that. Like somebody said to me, a girlfriend of mine sent me a DM after MPC released the new class and it was the release notice. And she goes, what do you think of fitness model? And my response to her was, I don't.
Yeah.
I'm a female bodybuilder. Why do I don't care what those people are doing. They're after me because of where I sit in the queue. People want to just get us done and over with. And you know what? I'm going to be eating my burger and fries with my family celebrating while that shit is still on stage, right? Like it doesn't impact me. So I'm not going to invest any time in that. And I'm certainly not going to invest any time in doom scrolling the internet trying to impress my opinion on people. Nobody cares. I'm one person on the internet. I'm a Canadian bodybuilder. Nobody cares.
I think it actually, if it impacts anybody, it would be you and your division,
Really?
because a lot of, well, I mean, you see more and more now. They're removing women's physique, they're removing women's bodybuilding, they're removing figure, certain shows. I mean, especially the Canadian nationals right now. They're starting to add more divisions to it, but there's not. You can't go to every show and do every division. They're picking and choosing some. And some of them just put more bums in seats, right? There's more girls showing up for Fit Model than there is for women's physique and bodybuilding, right?
Always.
So, I mean, how does that make you feel as kind of a women's physique athlete where, you might show up and miss out on a pro card or miss out on an overall because of lack of competitors where the judging rules say 5 or more.
Oh, yeah.
Where as
Constant.
a Fit Model, oh, there's 30 of them, and they're getting pro cards, right? So, I mean, I don't think it maybe takes away from the women's physique, because they're either going to have it or they're not. But how does it make you feel that kind of they're adding divisions on the lower end of bodybuilding and then kind of losing the love that kind of like we had as the
I
founding?
But you know what? I think that the industry is doing that to itself, and I think we are cannibalizing the intent. And let me tell you what I mean by that, because if you were to look, and so like I'm the type of person, I'm nationally qualified on both sides of the border. I could compete at a national show within the next 12 months. I've done one national show and I literally stood on stage and I was the smallest of the entire group. And I know that. I know that when I get on a stage in an untested federation, that is what I'm going to do. And that's fine. That's a decision that I've made. Um, but that was the only time that I've ever been part of an NPC or CPA like grouping where we've had more than 3 or 4 of us. One was at John's show during COVID, there was 4 of us, and the only reason there was 4 was because there had been other shows that had been canceled through 2020, right? So, what I but, like, going back to the cannibalization is we in the female bodybuilding and women's physique, the insistence to be at a pro level is that I would have to use massive amounts of PEDs to even be competitive from a size and a leanness and all of those things. When you can see the fibers in a woman's legs at the you know, the backside of her body, like, that's intense, that's extreme. I don't know that I could ever get there without being an intense user of steroids, and I just I feel like the industry is pushing us at the female bodybuilding level, and I'll speak to that because that's really my core area. I can't really speak too much to WPD, like, I've done that a couple times, but it's like, realistically, it can be grossly unhealthy at the pro level to be competitive. Like, there's 0 chance probability that I would ever be an Olympia contender, right? I was at
Well, I
Rising
wouldn't say
Phoenix.
that, but I think you have great
Yeah,
physique. Are you
thank you.
natural?
Yeah, like, I just like, this is me. I just eat a lot of food and get to 200 pounds a year. And, but
Bravo.
I'm also 15 years in. And it wasn't until 14 years in that I ended up winning first place. And that year, I cleaned house. I did 3 competitions, and I came in with 5 overall titles. And one one was because I accidentally registered for women's physique. Like, I was, like, registering for this show in Arkansas, and at the end of it, I was like, "Oh, that was a really expensive registration." And then I got there, and they were like, "So you're competing in figure and women's bodybuilding?" And I was like, no, but I had pushed a button, and so they I was like, "I'm not a figure athlete." So, when we look at that, it's like I work really hard at the gym, though I program all my own training, like, all of those different things, but again, it also comes down to the fact that I will put 50 pounds on in my off season, but it's interesting, you also said something, I'm going a lot lighter this year in terms of my weight, like, I think 10 weeks post-contest, which is great, and I'm only up to about 161, 162 pounds right now, whereas normally I would be pushing already into the 170s if I was really being aggressive. And that's the thing that I'm trying to counterbalance this year is making sure that I'm not putting too much weight on, but that I'm still putting size on, and that, like, finding that sweet spot is, I'm around 3,000 calories a day right now. And, on my non-training days, I don't take a ton of carbs. I keep it pretty modest, but, um, yeah, and I'm self-coaching right now. So it's really just taking everything that I've learned in the past 15 years and applying it.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
It's just repetitive consistency, right?
Consistency, right? And it's the type of thing that, people will comment on it constantly. There's did I tell you, like, when I was about to peak for my last contest, my company was like, "Oh, we need you to go to Colorado to these board meetings." And it was for peak week. And I had to pack all of my food over 2 d I found out on Thursday that I was leaving Sunday. And so I had my peaking plan, thank goodness, and I had to prep all of my proteins, all of my, like, everything that I could, like, Ziploc bags of egg whites, man, like, who
Yeah.
and I
No
will
thanks.
I will tell you that those egg whites leaked all over everything in the one side of my suitcase, and of course, then I'm, like, freaking out. They're like, "Well, yeah, you can just fly to Denver and then fly to Colorado Springs," and I was like, "No, I'm gonna fly to Denver, I'm gonna collect my luggage that has all of my food in it, and I'm gonna drive to Colorado Springs," right? Because it's like you're mitigating all of these impacts, and I get there, and it's like this super classy, amazing hotel resort, which I'm like, the gym in it was, like, top shelf for peaking, but my fridge was the size of a friggin' iPad. So, like, I was, like, rolling Ziploc bags of chicken up, and I had, like, this little brick wall of chicken and egg
Could have been
whites and
there.
beef packed in there, and then it was, like, the veggies and fruits, I was, like, rotating them in depending on what I wanted to eat, but everything was just sitting ripening on the counter, like, it was crazy, but I mean, like, so that relentless focus, that is so abnormal. Most
Yeah,
people would be
most
like,
people they would have quit. They would have
"Yeah,
been like, "Oh, well," I mean, even arguably, like, if you told that to your coach, he'd probably be like, "Well, we're gonna push the show."
mhm,
Because obviously peak week's all about minimizing stress, like, like the least amount of travel possible. You should be at your destination like 4 days before the show at
yeah,
least, especially if you're flying, and all these things, right? Like it's not ideal to be out of your normal rhythm, especially when you've been doing, 4 months of just, eat, sleep,
same thing."
gym,
Yeah,
and then all of a sudden you're now flying here and meetings there, and trying to manage all of that. I mean, I did it as an executive chef, and it was hard. I was surrounded by food all day, and I
all
could sit
day.
down and have a meal, which it was hard for me to get time to do. But I mean, that's on a whole other level. And a lot of the struggle in my early years was trying to manage that balance of like, hey, I have a high level job that I need to deliver, results all the time for owners, and all of it. You need to be constantly actioning things every day, and being in the gym every day, like I need to focus on
Absolutely.
this as well, right? So it became to the point where it's like, okay, like it's a divide, right? Like how can I manage both these things? And if I'm in a prep, how do I keep my job? How am I going to make sure that I can keep showing up every day in all these different areas, right? But sometimes, like, someone like you, they're just, yeah, it is, we got to do, and the routine and the consistency is so there, the discipline, like you don't know it any other way.
Yeah, that's exactly
It's
it.
normal for you. You're not doing anything out of the normal. It's like, hey, I just ziplock the egg whites and off we go, right?
Well, and it was crazy too because then, so we're at this dinner. Everything is food when you go to these meetings, right? And so they do like a standing reception and everyone's got their wine and their beer and I've got my, Coke Zero and I'm kind of like, it's the last day that I'm allowing myself artificial sweeteners and so whatever, right? And it was great because like I was actually in only in Colorado until the Tuesday and then the Tuesday or the Wednesday I flew over to Phoenix, which is where the show was. So I was able to really do some decompression, but it was a long couple of days. Um so I'm sitting there and I'm with one of the partners from my firm and his wife. And I'm seeing a couple clients here and there. And it was like a lobby group of that I've never had exposure to. So I don't know anybody. And they had little salads. And I thought, okay, well, I can have salads. And they're in little tiny mason jars like this, eh? So I go over to this one server and well, I look in them and I'm like, okay, there's a ton of blue cheese in them. I'm not even gonna risk having it touch it, right? Like I need to be as pure as possible with this, right? I said to her, the server, I was like, "Do you think you could get me 3 of these little mason jars with nothing but the lettuce and the spinach? Throw in, a few tomatoes and cucumbers should be fine." Just, I look at that and I'm thinking, "Yeah, that's about 150 grams of veggies." I've got Ziploc bags of chicken in my Louis Vuitton, like, bag that I wear. And so I'm, like, totally desecrating this, like, incredibly expensive like, most expensive thing I own next to my vehicle. And so I go and I sit down and all these people are like, "Oh, yeah, so what's up with that water bottle?" Because I'm carrying my water bottle around because I'm measuring my water because I'm on peak week, right? And so I was like, "Well," so I started explaining it and then they're like, "Oh, that's great," and so now they're asking questions. And so now it actually becomes a business development tool because now people are curious and they're interested and they see this dedication, which is great. I love that. So I'm sitting there and this server comes over and she's like, "Hey, I just wanted to know, do you want chickpeas or do you want pine nuts or would you prefer seeds like these sunflower seeds?" And I was like, "No, no, no, no. No, 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 no. I just want lettuce, spinach, cucumber, tomato, like nothing. No, I always tell people, no fun. There's no fun
Mhm.
to these salads, although I really do love vegetables, so it's fun for me." So we're sitting there having a conversation, and this woman comes back, and she has 3 dinner plates full of lettuce, spinach, cucumber, and tomato, and sets them down in front of me, and all these people who are done eating, who are now drinking quite a bit of alcohol, look over and they're like, what is happening over there? Well, I'm starving by this time because now I'm like an hour and a half past when I should have eaten because I've been, socializing and doing things, that needed to get done and waiting on these salads. So I pull my little Ziploc bag of chicken out, and how I make it is I prep it and I shred it. So when I shred it, like you take it out of the Ziploc and it just becomes this giant volume of food, right? And so I'm like, well, I'm eating 2 of these salads at least. And like everybody's like, what's up with the 3 salads and that lady? What's going on over there, right? So now I'm drawing all this attention as I'm like sprinkling it on. And they're like, so what dressing would you like? No, I just eat salt and pepper, please. That's all I need. Like, so it was crazy because then, like a couple weeks ago, I was in France speaking at a conference, and I'm walking through the exhibition hall and I hear my name being called out. And I'm like, who the fuck do I know here in France other than my own team who I'm going to meet? I turn around, it's one of the guys who was at the table that night. And he was like, I'm so happy to see you. How did your competitions go? We were rooting for you. And so, like, it created this, like, really neat element of camaraderie amongst these people, right? So it was a crazy experience, but it's like, that's what people in the business community have started to know me as this bodybuilder who does all of these other things, not this consultant or this leader who does bodybuilding. So it's a neat concept.
Yeah, definitely a conversation starter, and
Yeah.
people will recognize you in a crowd, right? You'll always
So
be known as the salad lady.
oh God, yeah, Kate and her 18 salads. So, okay. So let's wind this down with one final thought from you. When you think about yourself in the bodybuilding world, when you think about yourself as a leader of a gym, when you think about yourself as a coach, what legacy is it that you're building beyond the 4 walls of the gym and of your coaching practice? Like if people look back and they think, Rob William, great bodybuilder, great coach, what are they thinking along with that?
Um, yeah, I'm always trying to provide learning through my coaching. Um, whether it's someone in a lifestyle scenario who's learning healthy habits, or make some changes in their lives that really benefits them. That's something that I find a lot of fulfillment in. So I've just been chasing that. I'm always trying to like help people reach the next level, to kind of break down whatever barriers that they have kind of holding them back. um, but I mean, outside this gym, I'm you know always kind of trying to position myself in a place where I'm growing. Um, I've lived in Calgary like almost 5 years now, kind of like set up some roots. And now that the gym is here, I plan to stay here a lot longer. So, I mean, in my personal plans, I'm probably gonna be buying a house, do the whole settle down a little bit more, but ultimately like growing my business and kind of developing people is my main goal, like whether it's my team here at the gym and staff, just working at the gym, or my clients, whether they train here, whether they're online, um, just trying to grow them as people, right? Like some people learn along the way of bodybuilding about themselves. Um,
Mm,
like tell each client, I'm like, if you can dial into this plan and you can do this routine, you can do this in anything. So whether it's building a business, whether it's investing in relationships, or whatever side projects, side hustles you have going on, if you can, commit to a 90-day program of fitness or a 4-month bodybuilding competition, think about how much time you could invest into other things. And I'm trying to apply that in my own life now. So, I mean, as far as the coaching side of things, I want to get some pro cards. I want to get more athletes on stage. I want to focus a little bit more on the prep side of things, like contest prep bodybuilding, um, and even just using the gym as a tool and space to grow that as well. Hopefully, for 2026, we could like set up some bodybuilding training camps, a lot more seminars. We're looking to bring in like a lot of kind of gurus in the industry to do talks, meet and greets. Whether they just stay and train, offer kind of one-on-one sessions, all that kind of stuff is things that I kind of want to bring in value added to the gym as just like ways of growing ourselves and just learning.
yeah.
So that's kind of like a way that I want to start building my legacy. But ultimately, like I think the biggest thing is just for people to look back on me and say like, hey, I maybe learned something from him, or he gave me an opportunity when no one else would. I'm always trying to look for that like diamond in the rough type person that maybe needs a little
Yeah.
bit of help, who's kind of down on their luck, and earlier in my life, I was that person, right? I was someone that kind of needed someone to trust in me, needed someone to give me an opportunity and give me a shot to really like prove what I could do.
Mhm.
And I think that pressure of just wanting to be better all the time has just helped me kind of extend that to other people as well to grow my team and to grow self-made nutrition just kind of as a family, right? A lot of my competitors, a lot of my athletes, they're not just clients to me. Um, Try to help them in whichever way I can to kind of navigate life. Whatever struggles come their way, it's more than just like, oh, I couldn't follow my plan because of XYZ. It's like,
Right.
okay, well, let's focus on what we can do right. Um, and I think the biggest thing is just like, I know it's easy to say like, oh, the sun will rise tomorrow and things will be better. Things always get better. Um, but I think it's more so I have like a dynamic kind of approach to that is just like the only thing you know for sure is that things are going to change
Yeah,
always. And I
absolutely.
think that's the only constant thing that we have in life is that we're always learning to adapt and change to our surroundings. Um, and nothing's guaranteed. So, I mean, I just try to make the most of every day and just have the biggest impact I can on the people around me and, um, the environment around me.
I love that. I love that. Now, if folks want to get in touch with you, they're the diamond in the rough, and they say, "Hey, this guy sounds like he's the guy for me." As I want to change lifestyle, if I want to put my toe in bodybuilding, or maybe I just want to find a good mentor, somebody who's been through the shit. How can they get in touch with you?
So easiest way is probably on my Instagram. My Instagram's Robless Heavy Things. You can also reach out to me at the gym. My business card's right on the desk. My phone number and everything is all on there. I won't share it on here, but feel free to reach out to me. I usually like to do a quick consult call, make sure things are a good fit. As far as working with someone, make sure that kind of our goals align and that communication is there before we kind of get in too deep. But ultimately, yeah, taking on new clients all the time. Always looking to expand the team, bring in new talent. So yeah, I'm looking forward to kind of like what the new year brings and what we kind of get up to.
Amazing. Well, Rob, thanks so much for joining us. I would like to suggest that this won't be the only time because I think that there's an origin story there that our listeners could probably benefit from hearing. So, really, really appreciate your time and your contribution and your thoughts. I think it's going to be really thought provoking for people. I think it opens people's eyes to the fact that we're all not just knuckle dragon meatheads and that we have personalities and hearts and dreams and failures. So,
Yes, big time. No, I really appreciate you bringing me on. I'm very grateful that you wanted to have me on here. Definitely an experience for me to learn from and something I would definitely do again.
awesome. Well, listeners and viewers, thanks for joining us today. We're always looking for your questions and your feedback. If you have questions for Rob, put them here. We'll have him back and we'll have some more questions and answer time with Rob as a coach and a gym general manager. In the meantime, though, remember protect your peace, chase your dreams, and stay unbreakable.